Good morning, everyone. The Delaware County Commissioner meeting for May 10th, 2018 is now in session. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Lewis had an incident occur this morning, so she may arrive a little late if she may not get here in time. But her goal was to be here this morning. Commissioner Benton, a fellow commissioner, is here as well, and Sarah Denova is our clerk today, and our administrator, Mike Fromer. With that, let's begin.
Resolution number 18-502, in the matter of approving the electronic record for the proceedings from regular meeting held May 7th, 2018.
So moved.
Motion made, seconded, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-502. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We have no public comment this morning or elected comment this
I think
morning.
we do have public comment, but it's related to an agenda item, and we'll hold it till that point.
Resolution number 18-503, in the matter of approving purchase orders, then and now certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CMA PR 0509.
So moved.
Motion made, seconded by me. Any discussion? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-503. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-504, in the matter of approving travel expense requests.
So moved.
Second, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-504. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-505, in the matter of proclaiming Saturday, May 19th, 2018 as Kids Day America International in Delaware County, Ohio.
So moved.
Second, discussion. Was there anyone discussing it today? Or vote.
Vote on motion 18-505. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-506, in the matter of rename, I believe that's supposed to say renaming, organizational key, approving a supplemental appropriation and transfer of funds for Common Pleas Court.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Essentially, I won't go into the long detail. I think you saw the judgment entry that spelled everything out, but we're essentially separating out the general division ADR funds from the domestic relations division's ADR funds into two separate funds. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-506. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 18-507, setting date and time for public hearings for the proposed adoption of changes to the building code of Delaware County.
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Good morning. Fred Fowler with Code Compliance. I'm here today to present this to you. Our building department, as well as other building departments in the state, were required to follow the state residential and commercial codes, but we have the ability to adopt local codes as well. And we are proposing some changes to our local code. They've been evaluated by the state. There's no conflict with any state codes that we have, and no changes involve any fees or fee increases at all. It's just local code changes that we feel that are appropriate to get updated and update references to the codes that we have now. And I ask for your consideration and approval of the resolution so that we can move on to have the public hearings as required.
You laid it on our desk a couple of days ago, the material, I believe? Or
Yes.
I have not had a chance to look at it yet. Is there anything there that raise any questions after I read it? It would be pretty self-explanatory.
It should be pretty self-explanatory. I provided you a copy of the draft with all the changes identified as well as a summary. So hopefully I've captured those items and provided you a background on what they're all about. Be happy to answer any questions that you have once you read through them and give you any more information if necessary.
Yeah. I know you did put that on our chairs as well, so I have not as well studied it yet. But what Cliff Notes version of the major changes?
I think there's 13 sections of our local code that are involved with changes. Some of the primary ones, we have a section for permits being required. We've added a paragraph there to clarify the suspension and delay of a permit, connecting that to inspections that have been approved or scheduled so that we can know if a permit is expired or not. Another item would be Board of Building Appeals. We've modified some of that language so it's more in line with similar language in our zoning code that talks about board members and their time on the board. And then another section, probably the biggest one, would be private residential swimming pools. We have updated to the 2018 version of an international code, which was a 2013 version.
I know we had we got downgraded in our ratings last fall, probably, I think it was.
Correct, yes.
And that was because we hadn't adopted these updated codes, I think, as I recall.
Yeah, the primary reason for that is that the state was behind on their adoption of the international codes. And last year, the state in November did adopt updates to the commercial code, and that's been identified, and our scores have been adjusted accordingly.
Okay, okay.
These changes will likely not impact that evaluation at all. However, the state this year, probably towards the end of the year or the first of next year, will be updating a new residential code at the state level, and that will definitely impact that evaluation.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I know this resolution is just setting the dates for the hearings, but I still appreciate the input on what the changes are.
Sure.
With that, the vote?
Vote on motion 18-507. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution
Thanks,
number
Fred.
18-508, in the matter of approving the sanitary sewer improvement plans for Woodcrest Trunk Sewer.
So moved.
Second, discussion?
Morning, Commissioners. Tiffany Mag with the Regional Sewer District. These plans are for a development that's near Clarkshaw, in the Clarkshaw area, just south of Clarkshaw Road. It's actually a 12-inch trunk sewer that would serve a future development of about 400 homes. So we request your approval for the plans.
Questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-508. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-509, in the matter of approving the sanitary sewer subdividers agreement for Clarkshaw Moores, Section 4.
So moved.
Second, discussion?
This is a standard sanitary subdividers agreement for an area also in Clarkshaw that includes 46 homes.
Questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-509. Mr. Merrill? Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-510, in the matter of accepting the sanitary sewer improvements for Liberty Trace, Section 3B.
So moved.
Second, discussion?
This sewer line is in the Liberty Trace subdivision, which is at the northeast corner of Liberty Road and Home Road. This section includes 14 homes that will eventually tap into this sewer.
Discussion? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-510. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-511, and the matter of approving the supplemental easement number 1 to the Allen Creek Lake contract number DACW 69-2-01-1036 between the Secretary of the Army and the Delaware County Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
Second, discussion? Vote? Shoot, go ahead.
This is for an easement that will be installed, that will be for one of our capital projects. It's the Cheshire pump station upgrade. What we need is some additional land right at the pump station, which is at the corner of Cheshire Road and Africa Road. And then a new force main will be installed all the way down Africa Road. I think it's almost 2 miles down Africa Road. So we're getting an additional 10 acres from the Army Corps in addition to our existing easement for the force main that we already have. So this is a no-cost easement, and the language has been negotiated between the two entities and approved by Eric.
Questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 18-511. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye. Thanks, Tiffany.
Would you like me to read the thing or have them speak?
Let's go ahead and read it, and then we'll,
Resolution number 18-512, in the matter of rejecting all bids for the sale of the Old County Jail, 20 West Central Avenue, Delaware, Ohio, 43015.
So moved.
second, discussion. We do have a public comment, but why don't you go ahead and make your comments, then we'll proceed, okay?
Good morning, John Melvin, Director of Facilities. This resolution, as stated, will reject all the bids received for the sale of the old jail at 20 West Central Avenue.
Okay. And I believe, is it Mr. Cox or Mr. Mango that's going to speak? Okay, Mr. Mango?
Morning, Commissioners. Michael Cox. Mr. Benton, glad you're here today. I'm not going to try to replow the ground we covered last week. I'm going to try to get it in under 3 minutes. But I don't pretend to be an expert in public land use or disposition of excess public property, but I got to think when looking at these bids, there's two primary concerns that the county should have: dollars and intended use. First of all, as I explained last time, this was a well-publicized auction. It was covered in newspaper articles in addition to the mandatory legal notices that were out there, and the county received 2 bids. Our bid being 10 times, in excess of 10 times the next bid. I don't think there's any reason to believe that opening this up again is going to reap a much larger dollar amount for the county. We move on to intended use. Mr. Fromer indicated last time that there was some input from the community, surrounding community, about some of the concerns with the property. I don't know if those were, I would assume that they were solicited support of one plan or another, considering that our plan wasn't publicized that I know about to keep it basically in its current use. I would say this: certainly there couldn't be any reasonable objection to using that building the way it has historically been used, which is what we intend to do. We intend to keep it within the fabric of the local legal community. We intend to continue to use it as a law office. I think it's, like I said, maybe somebody wants to object to that because they have some ulterior motive, but I don't think that anybody in the surrounding community, unless the commissioners are currently receiving complaints about its use and the use it's had over the past decade or more, the use that we're going to put it to would be substantially the same. Any other use, I would caution, is fraught with the possibility of leaving an eyesore on that corner. To illustrate that potential, you have to look no farther than the corner of Franklin and Lincoln, where a ambitious plan was implemented to convert a historically beautiful building into a different use. Plumbing's run throughout. It's converted into rooms, hospitality. It fails. It stands there deserted. Nobody wants it. There's no viable use for it. And it's all because it was allowed to be converted into something that had, you know, a 50-50 chance at best of making it long term. And as a result, the city and the county and the neighborhood have lost a beautiful building that may never be brought back. It may end up being demolished as its highest and best use at this point. That being said, as I highlighted last time, we have a viable plan for the building. We have businesses the businesses that are going to be moved into that building aren't new or testing a market here. They're law offices that we've operated in this community, myself for over a decade, Mr. Mango for even longer. We have a client base, we have the income, we know the building, we've spent a substantial amount of time in there as the law library, we know what it holds, what it needs, and our only plan, and I think it will beautify the community, serve as a cornerstone for that neighborhood, is to bring in some landscaping and lighting on the outside that will highlight the architecture that's already there, maintain it, and let the community enjoy that building as it stood for the past 130 plus years for at least as long as I can practice. I appreciate the commissioner's time. I would ask that rather than reject the bids, that we enter into either formal negotiations for the sale or at least sit down and talk about whatever the concerns are that some community members may have raised, how those can be addressed through our purchase and plan, and how we can get that building looking better for the local community and for the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hosteller, would you like to share your thoughts?
Sure. I think the explanation for the recommendation to reject the bids is rather straightforward. When the advertisement was put together, it was basically just for a price. There was no additional criteria. After the advertisement ran, some concerns were raised by other public officials about the lack of additional criteria. County staff considered recommending an addendum to the bid, and it was decided to not make that recommendation, to simply see whether there was any interest in the building at all. Since that time, obviously, both bidders that have responded have provided additional information that the commissioners would like to take into account, but are not in a position legally to negotiate on unannounced criteria. So the reason for the recommendation to reject is basically to go back, redo an advertisement that will include all of the criteria that has come to be known to staff and to the board since the time that we first advertised. The timeline for that is, staff has decided we will put together something within the next month to put this back out to bid with additional criteria that will cover those concerns. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Maybe a couple comments. There was significant interest. There were a number of parties that went through that did not submit a bid. We don't know exactly who they were or why they chose not to bid. I personally think that there is a potential for increased price and more participants in this if we spell out the details of the bid process as our prosecutor is recommending. So I do think it would be a good idea to basically pause, reject the bids, and then go through a more refined process, because in the beginning, quite honestly, we weren't sure if we were going to get any interest, and there was strong interest from a number of parties. So so I guess that's where I am, and there are alternatives available as well to possibly use the finance authority, and that gives us greater powers to offer incentives and do financings and other things that possibly could be done as well, that could increase the usability and price and just whatever the building ends up being used for. So anyway, that's where I am. I think it would be a good step at this point to reject bids and then go through a more refined process.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, first of all, I appreciate the patience, and we just want to make sure we get this right. Our goal, I believe, is the same goal as you have, and frankly, the same goal that I think the other bidders or potential bidders would have. We want to protect that building, and we want to make sure the building is historically maintained, et cetera, and the limitations on how this was handled really kind of handcuffed us in ensuring that, and we just want to get it right. And the goal is to get it right. And if we go back and do it over, we'd probably do it a little differently. But we are where we are, and so I hope and trust we have the patience and understanding. I am also going to support today's resolution. I certainly cannot speak for Commissioner Lewis, so and unfortunately she was not able to be here for reasons that she couldn't control this morning. So those are my thoughts. John, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, or, okay. Eric, is there anything you want to add to the statements?
No.
Okay.
I guess I would like to just reiterate that point, and that is that we really do want to protect the building and the integrity of the building, the future of the building. That's very important to us, as well as price and use and so on. But I do want to just restate that is very important to us.
And price is important.
Price is important, sure it is. Sure it is.
In conjunction, and I think you illustrated with it when you talked about intended use and the dollars. So I think you were kind of saying the same thing we're trying to say, and I think we all have the same goal. We just want to get it right. And so with that, call for vote.
Vote on motion 18-512. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Okay, well,
Reports.
Mr. Fulmer.
Tomorrow we have our, I just have a few brief things. Tomorrow we have our employee service fair that's out at the YMCA, the National Guard facility. I have it down from 9 to 2. Is that? That is correct. So also, Cy and Dawn and myself are meeting with folks from the library tomorrow to start to talk to them about some of their future plans and some of the things they're going to be looking at with potential renewal of their levy. So we're going to start that process as well. So just kind of give you guys an update.
Good. Just a couple things. We had a DKMM board meeting Tuesday, and it was actually a fairly brief one. There were a couple things that came out of it. We did renew the contract with Rumpke for Delaware and Knox County for the pickup services. And since Commissioner Whiston from Morrow County had an initiative, an idea to have the commissioners on the board have a contest to see who could generate the most recycling material for 1 week in
their own home?
In late July, in their own home. And so I volunteered Commissioners Merrill and Lewis to participate in that contest. You weren't there to say no, so I volunteered you. But anyway, it should be fun, and we'll see where that goes. But again, active group, a lot going on, moving forward on a number of initiatives. Then we got more to see this afternoon. That's all I got.
I just have a couple things. I was not able to attend the DKM board meeting, and I guess I got volunteered. That's the reason I need to attend these meetings. I was working the polls, worked the election yesterday. I always enjoy doing that. When you're there involved in it, it is such a long day. But I always feel the reward of having done it, and voter turnout at our particular area was pretty steady all day long, and I was in the PAL area, and I'm always amazed at the workers and the quality of workers we have in our county who are willing to give literally, I'll say a whole day, but it's really more than that, 5:30 in the morning till we got through at 9:30 at our polling site because you have to close everything up. So it's an extremely long day, and the fact that we have people in our county, throughout the county, not just our area, that are willing to do that, I commend and say thank you to all of them. And our Board of Elections is one of the, I've said it before, they do a tremendous job, and they really make everything work efficiently because of the preparation work they do before the elections, and because of that, I think we have an election in our county that we can all believe and trust in. Morpses today, and had 911 board meeting yesterday. That went well, and also the Entrepreneurial Center meeting, the initial meeting occurred Tuesday, and I also was able to attend that. It's kind of the organizational meeting, and it went well, and they're well on their way of having that in place for the fall, and I think we all feel very good and feel very optimistic about that. I have one other thing. I'm going to ask if Eric would update us. We received an email from Jan Steinball regarding Duncan Glen, and if you could share your observations. I know we forwarded that on to you. Would you give us your perspective?
Well, sure. There has been a discussion for some time about the potential of somebody, one of the property owners out at Duncan's Glen Road, petitioning to have that road established as a public road. It's currently a private road. And the question from the individual was posed last month, I believe, and Engineer Bowserman responded with some details, but it appears that they have some additional questions, and I think that I can offer a response that would give a little bit more detail in terms of the process, which is what they're really looking for. And so with the board's permission, I'll respond to that email on your behalf.
Yeah, I made an effort to respond yesterday, knowing that our engineer had, and the response I got back, I think the individual just does not understand the process. And I haven't read your comments, so hopefully that addresses that.
Well, I will prepare a response, send it to the individual. I will copy the board as well as the engineer to make sure everybody is aware of that response.
Good. Okay. Is there anything else to bring before us? We have no need for executive today. With that, we are adjourned.
Don't run. I have stuff to sign.